Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Why Are We Like This, a Heartstopper podcast. I'm Ashley, she, her.
And I'm Alyssa, she, they. And today we are finally here to talk about Season 2, Episode 6, Truth/Dare.
Finally!
All right, we did it, fam. We're here. I know that this has been long awaited, not only for y'all, but for us.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've previously stated that I have been waiting for this since I read the comics,
Yes.
which is a true statement. Just kind of at the jump, I want to say thank you to all of you for your support after we posted our last episode. You guys have been really, really nice, and it's really appreciated as we get through our respective life situations.
Mm-hmm.
And to that end, I also want to acknowledge that given my present life situation, I'm probably just going to be even more emotionally compromised than I already normally am during this episode, which is reflected in the amount of times that I wrote about crying in my notes.
There's some big moments in this, so
There's a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Obviously,
we go on a real journey through this one.
Do.
I watch these episodes over and over again to make my notes, and going from the end of the episode back to the beginning is such a whiplash.
Yep. I loved the other day when I was texting you, and you were a little bit ahead of me on your current watch.
Yeah,
and you were with Isaac at the party,
mm-hmm.
and I was like, shh, we're gallivanting in the hallway. Don't make me think about the sad parts.
Yeah.
Let us frolic.
It's a real journey, this one.
It is.
So, before we dive into, this episode and what it's about and all of that jazz, a couple of updates. Since we last spoke, I did go to Baby Queen in New York, and it was phenomenal, of course. And I just wanted to give a shout out to the listener that I met at Baby Queen, who is in Brooklyn, and their name is Rahel. It was so nice to meet you, and I hope you enjoyed the show.
I'm jealous. I wish I could have made it work, but I don't live in New York anymore, so I can't.
Right.
Yeah, also, I'm just, really jealous because you keep running into, listeners in the wild, and the only person who I have talked to who, only people that I've talked to who, know about the podcast are, people that are, folks that we know through, online communities.
Yeah.
And so we've been promoting the podcast to our friends online, and so I'm, sitting there with Jeremy, who was on a previous episode, and we're chatting, and then someone else is oh my, someone is oh yeah, I love your podcast, by the way, because we're talking about Heartstopper. I haven't run into someone in the wild yet.
Well, both times we're in New York, so thank you to our New York listeners.
Yeah.
This one was funny because they, I guess, hadn't seen any photos of us or anything, so they had no idea really what we looked like. Mm-hmm. And I had just gone to the bar, and I came up, and then they were I love your podcast. I guess they had asked Nicolette, how'd they find Baby Queen? And Nicolette was well, my friend has a podcast about Heartstopper. And so that's kind of how it came up. And then I walked up, and they were wait, say something. And then I panicked and was what can I say? So I just did the intro. I was welcome to Why Are We Like This? That's the only thing I could think of that would be recognizable outside of just me just babbling at them. So there I am in the middle of the floor at Baby Queen doing the Why We Like This intro.
I love that.
Also, shout out to whoever it was up in the front left that was playing Heartstopper on their phone and holding it up for the crowd to watch.
Oh my God,
the show started.
Love it.
It was great. And then the other note I have is to talk a little bit about Thursday's A Night with Alice Oseman.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an hour-long special that they did through Fane, and I just collected some juicy bits that related to the TV show that I wanted to talk about, and then I figured at a later date, when we're back on the comics, we can talk about the volume 5 stuff that they talked about. Also, giving people a chance to read it if they haven't. So,
Yeah.
David Levithan, I think is how you say it, is who interviewed her. And yes, they looked so cute. That jumper, they had on like a green jumper that was so cute. And I like tweeted about it and I put it on our Instagram stories. She did like our tweet about it. So I was like, okay, she knows that. I love the jumper.
Awesome.
He asked what it feels like to like come back to comic stuff after being focused on the show for so long. And they said it feels like coming home. And I was like, and then they love the cast and the show and is very happy with how it's turned out. But here's where it gets interesting. They said that the two works have now split into two separate things in their mind. And they're always trying to keep it true to what they want it to be and let the comic be what it is and not worry too much about, oh, what is this scene going to look like when it turns into TV, or is this going to be difficult to achieve on screen? She said, because I have accepted their differences and I'm completely happy about the ways that they are different. And I think that that's very natural and normal in an adaptation. And I was like, yes, give us those crumbs that there will be changes.
Love that, though. Like, hats off to Alice Oseman for acknowledging that, because it is very hard to be working on an adaptation of something that you're still creating. And so, not to make this about Marvel, but Marvel kind of started doing this where they started like making the movies reflect things that were happening in the current comics and vice versa, making the newer comics to reflect things that were happening in the movies in an attempt to sell more comics. And it kind of failed miserably for Marvel Comics. But like, it also is just like really annoying. And that's with like huge, like multifaceted, like individual, like so many people are working on that kind of operation. This is Alice, who is writing all of Heartstopper the comic and also writing all of Heartstopper the show. And it's like really commendable for them to be like making this concerted effort to make them be separate things.
Yeah.
Which A, can be really hard, and B, is going to allow both of those things to stay true to themselves.
Yeah. She talked a lot about when she was doing the scripts for season 1 and she was still working on the comics. So she was like working on the scripts and then going to set and like doing all that and then coming home at night and trying to draw, and how discombobulating that was, and how that that's why she had to be like, okay, I can't keep doing it this way. They have to be separate entities. So I love that.
Yes.
They also mentioned there is a master document for the comic Heartstopper where they rough draft all the dialogue before they draw. And I'm like, to have a peek at that.
It's like the like PDF of all of the Look What You Made Me Do music video Easter eggs. Just like, to look at it.
She said when she was writing season 3, she did use the comic master document because she was writing things in the script that she hadn't drawn yet. And it was finally like the two worlds like colliding into one timeline again.
That's also interesting to think about because of like where we are in the comics and kind of also what the timeline would have been for when Alice was writing season 3. And I think it kind of gives us a little bit of like a sense of like kind of what all might be going down.
Yes. Also, for our timeline question purposes, volume 1 started 15 months before volume 5 starts.
Okay.
And then he asked if there were any characters that turned out to be way bigger than they ever thought they would be when they first drew them. And she said, Mr. Ajayi and Mr. Farouk. She never even prototyped them. The first time they were ever drawn is on their first page in Heartstopper.
Oh, wow.
And then that was them. And they love how much of a fan favorite they became. And then also Tao. She said that Charlie needed a friend for the Nick and Charlie novella. So she wrote Tao, and now he's a main character in Heartstopper. And so that's like kind of his origin story, was just like a friend for the novella. And then he turned into into Tao Su. So
Yeah.
representation was brought up, and he asked, what does it feel like to be putting these stories out in the world at a time when not only our rights but our literature is being taken away? As LGBTQIA writers, both of them are. And she spoke about Elle, particularly in the show, with trans rights being so awful everywhere right now. She said that she didn't write her with this in mind, but now that the show is out, she can see how much power the character of Elle has, and how much influence she has, and how much of a comfort and a source of hope that she can be for many people in such a dark time. And she said, now that I know how popular Heartstopper is, I feel a sense of responsibility to give that to people. They said it feels essential and necessary, and it's important to them that in their stories they're trying to do some good in the world. I love them. And then I just wrote down this quote from David that I loved, where he said, there's nothing radical about a queer romantic comedy. It's not inherent in the writing of it. It's inherent in the reaction to it. Which I just thought was a powerful sentence.
Yes.
She did a demonstration, a live drawing of Nick and Charlie.
Awesome.
So I did that with my niece, where we tried to draw, and it was horrible, but frustrating and fun at the same time.
Awesome.
And then the last two notes I made were that he asked what the most surreal moment for Alice was so far. And she said London Pride, like when they got to the end and they were going to do that presentation.
Yeah.
They were still up on the float, kind of in that open circle. And she said, I looked in every direction that I looked, 360, all the way around myself. There was people as far as I could see. And she said, I looked up and I saw like the Heartstopper top of the float and was like, this is so weird. This is absolutely bizarre that this is happening right now.
Yeah.
So that was cute. And then he asked if she knew what the last page of volume 6 was going to be. And she said no. So that's exciting to know that it's still in the works.
Yeah. Also, have you seen the promo clip? This is, I think, a season 1 promo clip of Alice Oseman teaching the cast how to draw Nick and Charlie.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's very good.
It's very good. All right, should we do this thing?
Let's do it.
All right, so season 2, episode 6, Truth Dare, was written by Alice Oseman and directed by A. Roslin. And this is the one where, on their last day in Paris, Nick introduces Charlie to his dad. Elle and Tao make it official. The truth comes out at a party that's full of surprises.
Boy, is it.
Yeah. Or as I like to call it, the one with hashtag Imogen Sahar confirmed.
Yes.
Not actually, but there'll be some screaming later.
Yeah. Okay, before we dive into the opening scene, we got a comment, and I'm so sorry I did not write down the name of who commented, but they were like, you gotta look at the lyrics to this French song that it opens with. And so it's called We Were Beautiful, but in French. I'm not going to try to say it. And it's basically about like being obsessed with the person you're in love with and like thinking about them everywhere. Everything reminds you of them. And it sounds like the focus couple isn't together anymore in the song, but the person's like still in love with them. But I do have the lyrics up. So it starts out with like, on the sidewalk, I think of you. In the boulevard, I think of you. In the dark, I think of you. Even if it's late, under the streetlights, I think of you. And it's like, oh, but we were beautiful. We loved each other too much to do it well. I wake up, I think of you. I sleep, I still think of you. It's basically like they're all consuming, which is kind of the point where they're at right now, outside of the like, apparently they're broken up in the song, but like, they are all consuming.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cute. That's such a perfect song. And I have a lot of music notes for this episode.
I have some. I don't have as many. I think that if I had given it another watch, I would have. But I also just kind of, I'm like, you know what? Well, I'm just going to do like when we do whatever music wrap-up episode.
I know.
Big series rewatch with all of my music thoughts and notes.
Yeah.
And just kind of let it all go there.
Yeah.
But I did write down some of the songs that stood out to me in this episode.
Nice. So we start with basically right where we left off.
Uh-huh.
They're coming up out of the train station and they're walking down to the cafe. The grip that they have on each other. Whew.
My note says they're holding hands walking through the streets of Paris, and I am emotional. As they get to the cafe, they let go, and I cry. Because, like, obviously, they have to.
Right.
Because Stefan doesn't know. And I'm just like, no.
Yeah, keep holding on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just have notes about, like, when they come out of the train station, Charlie's, like, smiling and, like, looking at the sights, and then he looks at Nick, and Nick is, like, trying not to throw up. And then Charlie's like,
there's a
okay.
lot of stuff like that in this episode where, like, one of them is reacting one way, notices that the other one is having a different response, and then, like, tempering reactions to match each other.
Yeah.
And I feel a lot of things about it.
So good. Okay, so then we see Stefan. And my note is, this man looks like a fucking douche right from the jump. Like, these fucking sunglasses pulled down to the end of his nose, and he's on his phone. I don't know. I just see this man.
The way that he, like, dramatically removes his sunglasses and, like, stands up and waves to Nick. It's so...
Yeah. I was like, I see this man and I just think, ooh, no thank you. He looks like a prick. And he is, so trust your instincts, kids. Yeah, he looks up and he yells Nicholas and waves. Nick looks very nervous and Charlie hesitates and he's like, would you feel better if I waited here? And Nick is like, oh God, no, please. I need you. It's nice that Charlie was able to be that anchor for him through this interaction, because had he been alone, I think it would have hit a lot harder. And then we get the title card. I love this title card. It might be my favorite from the whole season, like all of it. I love this title card.
Yeah, my note is love this, love the color, love the title, love the way the title spins around and changes from truth to dare. 10 out of 10, best title card. No notes.
And the sound effects, the sound where you can like hear the bottle, like, oh, it's so good.
So well done. I still really love the friend title card. That is also one that's up there for me. But this one, it's much more subtle and really well done.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Okay, so then we go to the table and we meet Stefan. And in French, she says, you have grown so much. What happened? Playing a lot of rugby? It's called fucking growing up, Stefan. Where have you been? This is a thing that children do when you stick around long enough to see it happen. And Nick is like, yeah, a bit. And he goes to introduce Charlie. He's like, Charlie, this is my dad, Stefan. And he's like, this is my... And then he hesitates.
He's just like, what word do I use here? And Charlie senses it and is just like, hi, I'm Charlie. And like takes that pressure off of Nick to say anything.
Yeah.
You could just feel how like stressful, intense, and uncomfortable and awkward this conversation is for everybody.
Yeah. And I wonder if Charlie had hesitated a little bit longer, if Nick would have, like, what he would have come up with to say in that moment. He didn't really have a chance to, like, finish that thought because Charlie did cut in and like, save him from the situation. But I'm just curious if he would have taken the opportunity or not.
This might have been me projecting, but it kind of looks like he's starting to form friend, like, with his mouth when Charlie jumps in. So, like, I think he would probably have settled on friend, at least to start, but I don't want to think about it too much because then I get emotional and sad and start crying. So let's keep talking because the sooner we get out of this scene, the better.
Stefan says, nice to meet you, and orders them all coffee. And they sit down, and he says, so, you meet Nick in school? Record scratch. Excuse me, sir. In the very next episode, you say that you do not know how they met. I hate you. And then he asks why Nick never visits. And I'm like, what do you mean, why does he never visit? You're the adult. You're the one who makes the visiting happen, not the 16-year-old. I hate this man.
I think this is the point where, so just for reference for our listeners, earlier I was telling Ashley that I was so annoyed at Stefan that a lot of my notes, I didn't actually write what was happening, but I just put my thoughts. I believe that this is the point in time where I wrote, can I please yeet Stefan into the Seine? This is all bullshit. So yeah, just sharing kind of what my thought process was during this. I just was like, can we throw him into the river?
We have a Yeet Ben Hope sticker. Now we need a Yeet Stefan sticker.
Yeah.
He asked Nick how long he has until graduation and says it's soon now. He doesn't even know how old Nick is.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? He says he would have invited him this summer, but Martine is having the new kitchen fitted and the apartment is a mess. Excuses? These are empty excuses.
It's bullshit.
It
And
is.
like, we don't know if like Martine is Stefan's girlfriend, wife, like assistant, interior decorator. We have no idea.
Right.
I mean, I'm assuming that she's his partner in some way because
Right.
Nick says that he'd like to meet her.
Exactly. Which means it seems like they've been together for long enough that Nick has asked multiple times to meet her.
And long enough that they're renovating their home.
A kitchen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like your kids haven't fucking met her. Like,
Yeah.
what an absolute piece of shit.
This actor is doing a very good job of making me hate him. I'm sure he's a wonderful guy in his personal life, doing a great job of making me hate his ever-loving guts.
100%. He asks about their trip and they start to list off all the things that they've done. And then he gets a phone call.
Mm-hmm. So Stefan steps away to take the phone call, right? My first note, I was like, okay, maybe throwing a whole human being into the Seine is frowned upon, but I can throw his phone into the Seine, right? Right? And then, yes, as Stefan walks away, Nick's guard goes up. He crosses his arms across his chest. Also, his face, he is pissed.
Yeah.
Like, and rightfully so, but like this whole, like, he has been trying this whole motherfucking week to get in touch with his dad, to just see him at all. And it's not even been 5 minutes and he's stepping away to take a phone call.
And on top of that, he literally he was like, meet me in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
In the middle of your school trip.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he dropped everything to come here and see you.
And probably risked, like, getting in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. What a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm. So he comes back and says that something has come up.
And then Stefan says, oh, but I haven't told you my news. I'm coming to England next week. Next week. He hasn't even told his kids that live there. And he's going to be there in a week. And then sweet, sweet Nick is instantly excited about this.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart. And he's like, you should come for dinner. Mom won't mind. And I'm sure David would like to see you. And he says, I miss that boy. Which is like a slap in the face. Because he's been here with Nick the entire time. And has not said once, I've missed you.
Mm-hmm. And then he gives like a non-committal, like, yeah, maybe I'll talk to your mother.
Yeah.
Kind of answer. Like, no wonder Sarah left him.
Yeah, truly. God, she should have left him sooner. I don't know when she left him, but I'm already on that train.
Also, it's like very notable that the kids have her name.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know. I mean, I don't want to know, but I want to know, like, what's the story with Sarah and Stefan?
Yeah. And then in French, he says, keep playing rugby. Girls love rugby. David had lots of girlfriends at your age. At this, Nick looks utterly devastated.
Yeah, this is the shot.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I posted this.
No, you texted
on Instagram.
it to me.
No, I just texted it to you. I thought about posting it, but I had paused the frame to like go get some water or something. And it was just paused on Nick's face, just like holding back every negative emotion that one could ever experience. Like there's like tears and anger and disappointment, and it broke me.
Yeah. This entire interaction really made me think about, like, this is why he fucking nearly cried and gave such a heartfelt thank you when Charlie remembered his favorite candy bar and brought it to him. Because outside of Sarah, he isn't used to people actually listening and caring enough about what he's saying to remember it. And so the fact that Charlie remembered something as mundane as his favorite candy bar from a conversation they had many months ago, like,
Yeah.
That's why that struck him so hard, because his dad's such a piece of shit.
Yeah. And like the way that he is like, he doesn't know me. He knows I like rugby and that's it. It just breaks me because it's like, it's so frustrating to have like a family member, especially your own parent, like not see you for who you are.
Yeah.
Like I always get frustrated because I have like aunts and uncles and like more distant family members who I don't see often, who have kind of freeze framed me as like an annoying 12-year-old in their brains. But I'm like, that's also the last time they saw me.
Right.
And like, it's frustrating that they kind of like don't take the initiative to like get to see the person that I've become. Like for that person to be your dad must be awful. Especially when you juxtapose it with how much love Sarah gives him. And like for his dad to just not even give a shit about anything except for rugby. That's all Nick is good for in Stefan's eyes. And it just hurts me.
So then he says, "It was good to meet you, Charlie. Wonderful to meet one of Nick's friends." And he says that part in English. Charlie's like, "Well, that was fast." And then they have this back and forth of, he's like, "I really wanted to introduce you to him. Like, I wanted to talk to him about you." And Charlie's like, "It's okay. There will be other chances." And Nick just kind of looks sad. And Charlie's like, "Let's walk back to the coach. You can rant about him the whole way." Like, Charlie's just trying his best to bring back the sunshine.
I do have questions about this, though. Logistical questions. Because how far are they from the Louvre?
I'm sure they have to get back on the train.
Yeah. Well, because they said that they're going to walk back to the coach. So I'm like, are you like walking the whole way? Are you taking the train back? Like, I know that you had to get there within like a certain time span. So yeah, you're going to want to take the train.
Oh, yeah.
It's faster. Like, but is it actually walkable? What time is it? When are you supposed to be back? Like, I have so many questions. And my notes here just culminate in all caps. How were they able to run off unsupervised in a major city in a foreign country?
Okay. Theory time. We got tagged. It was DKid1990 tagged us in an edit on TikTok. The edit was by amor.edit. And it's of this scene with Nick and Stefan. And the text on it says, "The fact that he only says this part in French proves that he knew that Charlie was Nick's boyfriend." And I had not considered this. And they're talking about at the end there when he's like, "Keep playing rugby. Girls love rugby." I don't know if I'm fully on board with this theory, but I think it's very valid. Nick does say, "This is mine," hesitate, and leaves it open, which was more than likely a red flag for Stefan. And then Stefan does immediately ask how they meet, and then either pretends he doesn't know later or asks as a way to like give an opening to see if they'll say any more about their relationship to one another. And when they don't, he threw it out because he wasn't really paying attention to it anyway. And then he does say that last bit in French when he's been speaking English to them for a while now, and then follows it up in English immediately with, "Nice to meet you, Charlie. Wonderful to meet one of Nick's friends," which put in this perspective feels like putting them in their place to me. Also, Charlie has a giant hickey on his neck, and these two are not subtle with their looks at one another and their proximity to one another. So,
yeah.
So I can see the theory and why it is out there.
I can see it, but Stefan like had his head so far up his own ass that whole time. I find it hard to believe that he noticed any of that, which like makes the girls love rugby. David always had a lot of girlfriends. Like it makes it that much worse because it's just like jabbing the knife and twisting it around. Yeah, it's like you can't even notice these like blatantly obvious signs that are right in front of your face.
It's true.
Then we go to the hotel, and I have never been happier for a scene change in my life. And then my note here just says, "Okay, that's probably not true, but this is what I am here for."
Yes.
It's like, I am in this episode for this shit.
Yeah. Such a good scene to cut to. Nick, Charlie, and Isaac are in the bed looking at Where's Waldo. Did you know that the French version
Because it's Where's Wally. Yeah, I did know that.
The French version is Where's Charlie?
Oh, I didn't know that. But yeah, it's Where's Wally is the English version.
Ah,
Is the UK version.
gotcha. I didn't know that Charlie was the French version until this came out. And then I saw on Twitter people asking Alice, like, did you know? And then Alice was like, what? No! Like, that would have been perfect, you know? So it's just funny that they also didn't know.
You guys are telling me that no one on set knew that and couldn't run and get a fucking
grab
Where's
one.
Charlie? Yeah. Anyway, this totally counts as an Isaac book watch, by the way.
Yeah.
I love that they're all like staring at it, and Isaac's just like, have you still not found him?
Yeah.
And then Nick and Charlie both like go to point to different parts of the page and realize that he's not there. And hey, Alice, anyone behind the scenes, show us the page. I want to play.
Yeah. Post that.
Mm-hmm. But then Tao emerges.
Tao comes out of the bathroom to spill some tea.
He says, I have something to share. Me and Elle kissed. And then my note here says, I lack the words to describe their individual reactions, but there's much excitement and everyone leaps off the bed.
I love that Isaac, his hand flies to his mouth instantly and he audibly gasps. He's like,
yep.
And then Charlie sits up, straight up, and Nick, his like smile's gonna rip his face off. He's beaming so big. And Charlie says, no way. And they all jump up and Isaac says, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. And Nick just yells, yes. I'm like, this is good. I'm glad that Nick got to end his night on this stuff instead of how we started this episode.
Which, again, like highlights like the importance of chosen family over like blood family, especially in like queer culture. And
yes. Then we cut to Elle.
She's just like, we kissed.
Yes. And they all scream and jump on her.
They like, I love it because they're all like, Ella's sitting on the one bed and all of the other girls are sitting on the other bed. And when she says it, the other girls all leap like simultaneously leap across. They're like in sync as they like leap across the bed, like gap between the two beds and hug her.
Yes. And I want to note that I love Karina's like super high pitched squeal scream that she does. We hear it a few times. My favorite one is in the next episode, but I just want to point out how good it is every single time and how impressed I am at her pitch every time.
I really like the way that this is done where they're cutting between Tao and Elle telling the story. It was really difficult to take notes on, so I didn't.
I did.
Awesome.
I paused it 147 times to get all of these.
I can imagine. My brain did not want to do that.
That's fair.
I was like, I will short circuit if I have to do this. Ashley will do it. I trust her.
My next note is that it cuts to Charlie and he tackles Tao onto the bed. And he says, I'm so proud of you. And Isaac says, oh my God, Tao, you have to tell us everything right now. And I'm like, yes, tea drinking Isaac is here. He's ready for it.
You know what they say about us bookworms? We love our tea.
Yes. So Tao says, well, she kind of initiated it. And then it cuts back to Elle. And she says, I literally just went for it. And I thought it was a mistake. And then Sahar yells, but it wasn't a mistake. I love that.
Those two, Isaac and Sahar, are the MVPs of this sequence for like Isaac's reaction with the like, you have to tell us right now. And the it wasn't a mistake. MVPs of this scene.
Yeah. And then Tao says, and then we kissed again. But I kissed her that time. And Isaac screams, oh my God, no, you didn't.
Yep.
And Elle goes back to her. She says, and then the third kiss was like amazing. And Tara says 3 times. And Darcy grabs her and says, this is the best thing that's ever happened. Yep. And then we cut back to Nick. And Nick is like, wait, what does this mean? Are you two dating? And Tao's like, I don't know. We literally just had our first kiss 5 hours ago. And Charlie is like, well, you got a DTR. Like, we got to talk to her. I'll text them right now. And Tao's like, wait, hang on. And Nick's like, what are you sending? And Charlie's like, we should explore the hotel. And then we cut back to the girls, and Darcy's like, you have to ask him to be your boyfriend. I'm sure he'll say yes. And I was like, I don't know, it's too soon. And then at the same time, Darcy and Sahar say, do it.
Yep.
And Darcy's like, you've got to. And then Tara gets the text, and she's like, guys, look, and shows the phone. And everyone's like, ooh. And then shenanigans ensue.
Mm-hmm. The shenanigans in question I described as sneaky hotel exploration.
Nice.
I love that they're like sneaking around the corners and whispering about how they're going to get in trouble. And Tara says, well, it's my birthday tomorrow, so what I say goes. At which point I had to go and check. I'm like, this is
Her
the
birthday?
summer. Her birthday.
I did too.
And he's like, she's not a fucking Leo, though.
She's a
I'm like, this is such
Cancer,
a
I
Leo
know.
move. But she's a Cancer.
The more you think about it, though, she feels more Cancer than Leo.
Oh,
overall.
yeah, no. Definitely.
But that line also made me be like, is she a Leo?
Mm-hmm.
Also, I want to point out that you said that they were whispering, but Elle very loudly says, we definitely shouldn't be sneaking around this late.
Oh, yeah.
And then the boys peek around, and then they all smile at each other, and this is when they start to break off. So Elle grabs Tao, and they run off, and then Charlie grabs Nick, and then Darcy grabs Sahar, which leaves Isaac looking at everyone like shit. And Tara is looking at Darcy, who's just left her.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I just feel really heavy-hearted for them in this moment. But they smile at each other. Tara, like, gestures for him to join, and then they grab each other and run off giggling. Mm-hmm. And Isaac's loneliness is really starting to come to the surface in this episode. Well, in the last couple of episodes, too. But yeah. And it breaks my heart. Yes. And then we see Elle and Tao have found a secluded alcove.
And Tao is trying to define the relationship. But Elle has other priorities.
Yes.
She, like, fully cuts him off by kissing him and does the, like, what were you gonna say? And Tao, error 404, Tao not found. He has short-circuited.
I think also he's like, I'm not gonna do or say anything in this moment to stop the kissing. Like, this can wait. Let's just continue kissing.
He's just like, I forgot.
So good.
And then there's more kissing. And then we cut to Nick and Charlie, who are like over by some vending machines and have found their own secluded alcove.
Before we dive into it, I did pause on the vending machines because I was like, what are in French vending machines? It's pretty normal stuff. The Mentos one has something on the top in yellow that I couldn't read, but then there was like the Mentos, and then there was something called Milka, which just looked like chocolate.
It's chocolate, yeah.
Something that looked like Maltesers. I don't know what that was. But then there was M&M's, Haribo, Lay's, and Oreos. And then the visible drinks on the Fanta, or on the drink machine, was Fanta, Coke, 7-Up, possibly High C, and possibly Pepsi. Okay. Those were kind of cut off, but that's what they look like to me. So, nothing too interesting, but I did do the work to see it, so I'm going to say it.
It's interesting that it is a mix of, like, different distributors. Yeah. Because, like, Coke, 7-Up, and Pepsi are all owned by different companies. Yeah. Whereas, like, it would be, like, all Pepsi products or all Coke products.
Yeah. And if you wanted to have options, you would have to get two separate machines, right? You'd have to get a Pepsi machine and a Coke machine. So, yeah, I thought about that, too. Mm-hmm. So they get into this little alcove, and Charlie says, finally. And Nick starts to lean in, and Charlie says, if you even think about giving me another hickey. And Nick says, I wasn't thinking about that. It's so cute. Charlie's like, you so were.
Mm-hmm. And then it gets serious really quick, and Nick asks how Charlie is feeling. Charlie says he's fine, and Nick tries to, like, get him to be serious, and he, like, fully deflects and asks Nick about how he feels about seeing his dad. And it just all hurts me very, very much.
Yeah. He's like, how are you? Checking in with him, because this is our reminder that this is the same day as he says, Charlie, you literally fainted on me today. Like, and he's been running around the city and running around this hotel I'm just like,
Yeah.
you need to rest, my guy.
Hydrate.
Yeah. And then Nick says, I've been so stressed about coming out that I didn't realize how stressed you've been about it. And again, Charlie is trying to make light of the situation. He's like, I get stressed about everything. You're not special. And that's when Nick kind of puts his foot down, right? He starts giving him the Charlie. And he's like, it doesn't matter how I feel anyway. It's your coming out. You're the one who's going through it. And Nick is like, Charlie. And then he says, it matters to me. And then they look at each other. And this it matters to me moment. This is another Nick saying I love you without saying it.
Mm-hmm. There's a few of those in this episode.
Yeah. And they almost kiss, but then the teachers show up.
Mm-hmm. I can hear Farouk's crossed arms before he enters the frame.
Yeah. Boys, it's past curfew. Get back to your room.
And they scurry off, and Ajayi's like, couldn't have let them go. Pretty sure I did the exact same thing at that age, sneaking around like that with a boy. You never did anything like that.
This is how you smoothly find out. Like,
yeah.
This is a nice way of poking around to figure out use of sexuality. And he starts to fidget and look a little scared, and he starts to look down, and it takes him a second, and he like swallows. And this is what I wrote, like, I can hear both of their heartbeats right now. Like, both of them are like, this is the tension is there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also wrote it kind of sort of parallels the like, would you go out with someone who wasn't a girl?
Yeah.
Like vibes.
Uh-huh.
You never did anything like that. And then I put like the eye emoji, side eyes. Like,
yeah.
And then after he says, well, when you don't figure out you're gay until your late 20s, you tend to miss out on those beautiful gay teenage experiences. Mr. Ajayi just says, and I wrote, heart rate increased. And Nathan stands up and he fidgets with his drink and then licks his lips. And my note is like, is he going to jump him right here at the vending machines? And Yusuf says it's probably a bit late for him to have any youthful moments of discovery. And this is when Nathan turns. Crying. Yeah, he turns the flirting up to 100. And he's like, I don't think there's an age limit to those, to be honest. And the way he like cocks his head and smirks.
And Farouk is picking up what Ajayi is putting down because he goes, yeah. Are you flirting with me?
He's like very tense too when he says it. He's like, is this happening?
The note that I wrote here, I like died. I was like, the tension between these two, my God, Farouk's reaction is so subtle.
Mm-hmm.
And Ajayi like moves to close the gap between them a little bit, but doesn't like get too close. He's like, maybe.
Yeah.
And they're both totally thinking it, like they're fully looking at each other's mouths, like thinking about kissing each other, and then they don't. And I want to scream and explode. And then I wrote, Jesus Christ, they resolved the tension between Tao and Elle just to ramp up the tension here. Alice is trying to kill me.
I put, these two really just went back to the same hotel room and went to bed and didn't talk about the fact that they just eye fucked at the vending machine. Like, these are some strong men.
Yeah. The fact that it takes them another full 24 hours to do something about it.
Exactly. And I love that Nathan's like, come on, we should head back. And then Yusuf like takes a second to get himself together and he like straightens his shirt back out like shit. Like, I love it. Also, I think it would have been hilarious to have the other teachers come out and interrupt this moment the way that like if it were the kids, someone would have come by and interrupted.
Something to like more believably like interrupt them and not it just be them being like, right, well.
So then we cut to happy birthday to Tara.
Yes.
I love this scene. I love the teachers being like, they're going to be a handful today. I love the painting that Elle gives her. It's so good. Darcy gets her a shirt with her face all over it, which I love. Also, I love Darcy's shirt in this episode in these next couple of scenes with the like swirls and the mushrooms
Mhm.
and the flowers. Like it's very me. So I like it a lot.
Speaking of things that are very you, did you notice Tara's crown?
Yes.
She has a tiny crown.
Yeah. A teeny tiny one.
It's precious. It just reminded me of you pointing out her tiny tie.
Yes, because I love tiny things. Darcy apologizes for being a not so great girlfriend lately.
Mm-hmm.
So she's going to make it up to her. She's got plans, big plans, to which I say, she's got plans. She's got great big plans. Every time. Shout out to Jenny Owen Youngs.
Yes. Before all of this, though, we do have an Isaac book watch. He is reading the aptly titled Birthday by Meredith Russo.
That's right. I did notice that. And I was like, he's always on theme.
Yep.
I love that.
And then they're at the Arc de Triomphe. And it's just like a cute little cutesy montage.
Mm-hmm. So Tao and Elle, they smile at each other and link arms. Darcy's running around chaotically, and Tara grabs her and puts her arm around her to like anchor her in. Mm-hmm. Imogen grabs Elle, Tao, Sahar, and Isaac for a photo. Tara's in the background, jumping chaotically, trying to get in the photo. And then we see Imogen, Sahar, Tara, Darcy, and Isaac engaging in a group hug. Mm-hmm. And then Tara, Darcy, Imogen, and Isaac posing for a photo together. Darcy takes a selfie-style photo of herself with Charlie wrapped around Nick in the background. And I just wanted to note that, like, any of their classmates could be out and around in this area. And this is just showing us that Nick is getting little by little more comfortable in public with Charlie, and that Charlie is getting less and less likely to stop him or hesitate. Mm-hmm. And we will see this peak in a second. But then it splits into a 4-panel screen.
Yep.
And in the top left, we have them taking that photo, Darcy, Nick, and Charlie. And then on the right, we have Tara, Darcy, Isaac, and Sahar trying to hold Imogen up across them. And Imogen's like flailing about saying, put me back down, put me back down. And then in the bottom left, we have Tara and Darcy hugging. In the bottom right, I believe we are inside the shot from earlier where we had the group hug happening, because we're like in the middle of that group hug. And then we cut to Shakespeare and Company, and Isaac is so excited, and so is Alyssa. Take it away, Alyssa.
That like TikTok sound that's just like the knuckles and the back cracking. Yeah. So first shot, Isaac's in the bookstore. He has 3 books. And then also in the background, we see Imogen is like up on like the bookcase ladder, and she's talking to Sahar, Tara, and Darcy. And also, this is kind of like the main like setup of where we see like that's like the main interior shot of the bookstore. Yeah. And in that shot, we can see that there are copies of Radio Silence and This Winter, and then there's also volumes 1 through 4 of Heartstopper on a different shelf.
I did make note of that because I was like, imagine one of them picking it up and then being like, wait, is this fucking play about us?
And then Tao and Elle are outside being cute and having a book fight. And then we cut back inside. Isaac now has 8 books. And Tao and Elle like walk in behind and like they're looking at some stuff. And then it cuts to Charlie is holding a book called The Swimming Pool Library, which is by Alan Hollinghurst. And Nick is taking pictures of him.
Mm-hmm. And this is the photo that will become his profile pic for season 3 of him holding up this book.
Yeah. Charlie's like, stop it.
Yeah.
And then Nick is like, absolutely not. And then he's like, please, I'm going to put this in front of my face. Like, he like does not want his picture taken. And I'm like, hey, Charlie, pro tip, putting the book in front of your face makes you even more adorable and much more likely to have Nick take more pictures of you.
Yeah. Also, it's Nick. You need to just, like, accept the fact that he's going to have 5,000 photos of you in his phone at all times.
Mm-hmm. And then we cut back inside, and Isaac is now over encumbered. I paused it, and I counted 16 books. And then he reaches onto the shelf, and he takes another one.
I love that he, like, looks at the back of it, and then he makes this face, like, well, obviously I'm getting this one too. Yeah. Like tosses it on top.
And I have some questions for the group. Who was supposed to be supervising Isaac? Everybody knows that you do not leave the group bookworm unsupervised in one of the most famous bookstores in the world. You simply do not do it.
I feel like there wouldn't have been any controlling him even if they were there.
But
You know that he packed an empty duffel bag inside his luggage specifically for books to bring back.
Oh, certainly.
I want to see the scenes of him lugging these books around for the rest of the day until they go back to the hotel.
Yeah, and like, because later when they're back, like they're just like in a pile on the bed.
Which I have some notes about.
Yes, I did not take notes about like what all he was grabbing, like what books he had, just because it was kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
And like, to be honest, I did not have the same mental energy that I had when I like took all of the notes about the books that were on the like Read with Pride display. And it was also just like harder to see. But he's got a lot of books. Yeah. But those are my Shakespeare and Company notes.
I just want to talk about how well shot it is too.
It's great. It looks amazing.
The flow is perfect where everyone is like walking in different directions, like kind of in and around each other. And like Tao picks up a book and then we close in on the book and it's coming off the shelf, but it's Charlie that has it. So we've transitioned back to Charlie and Nick. Like, it's just very well done.
I love it.
And so then we cut outside to Imogen, Sahar, Tara, and Darcy. And Imogen says, "That's the Notre Dame? What? Oh my God, it's so tiny." So this is Darcy with the Mona Lisa all over again.
Meanwhile, it's a massive cathedral.
Yeah. And Isaac like walks by right as Imogen says, "Oh my God, it's so tiny." And he like pauses for a second to look at her like seriously, and then he just like keeps walking.
Yeah.
And Nick and Charlie stop at the Notre Dame, and Nick says, "I need a selfie with you here." And I melt.
Yeah.
So they take this picture and then they want to kiss so bad. It's taking all that Nick has in him not to kiss Charlie, and you can tell.
I fully thought, I was like, wait, are we doing this? Like, right here outside the Notre Dame? Literally in front of God and all of Paris?
Right, yeah. Yeah, they come close before they walk away.
Yes.
And then Tao looks over at Elle, and he does kiss her, and she smiles at him. And I love them so much.
They're so cute and happy.
I'm so happy that we're in our Tao Elle era. Like, I'm glad that we have made it to the top of this mountain. Okay, so the next scene is where I cry and can't stop.
Yeah. So
we cut to rainbows everywhere.
So, my note, the umbrellas, and my note literally says, "Don't get me started about the umbrellas. I will cry, but like, think about the beginning of Secret and tell me that you aren't crying too." Yeah, but like, there's rainbow umbrellas and like little tiny rainbow triangle flags
and twinkle lights.
Clearly, they're in the Gayborhood.
They look at each other, and you can tell, like, the question is, this is gay, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and then they see, like, a queer couple, like, together, like, holding hands, and they look at each other, and then they hold hands.
This is where I start to cry.
Uncontrollably?
Yeah. They both freeze. They stop walking to watch this couple walk by them, and this is a turning point. This will for sure be a memory that they both remember for the rest of their lives. Being in Paris together and seeing this couple, and then they are like overcome with a sense of safety, and they look at each other kind of stunned, like they almost look shocked. And then Nick looks down and takes Charlie's hand and squeezes it, and they smile at each other. And Ashley can't breathe. What's more dead than code blue? I've exploded into a tiny million pieces.
Oh my God.
This is an exact example of why representation is so fucking important. Two people who are scared to be themselves saw someone like them, and it made them comfortable enough to be themselves. And look at their smiles. Look at them.
Yes.
They're in Paris, and they're in love. We know it. Their friends know it. And it's just so touching, and it hits me like a ton of bricks every single fucking time.
I have been crying about this since the trailer drop.
Yeah, same.
And it's also, like, not only is it, like, such a big thing about, like, representation and why representation matters, but, like, how just the act of being, like, out and queer and visible is so important. Like, you could just be walking down the street with your partner holding hands, and like not know that there is a person who's struggling who like feels empowered just by seeing you do that in
Yeah.
everyday life.
Yep. That's something that I try to remind myself, like as a plus size person, when I dress in a way that I want to dress, but I know could get pushback from people in public, I try to push through that because I'm like, if young Ashley had seen someone like myself, like it would have meant so much. And maybe I wouldn't have as much anxiety about it as I do. Like, I'm talking like a simple crop top and jeans. Like, I'm not talking anything crazy, just like, but I try to think about that and be mindful when I start to second guess it about like going out. And I'm like, no, because if any young person sees me dressed like this and being confident in myself, then it's going to help them to be confident in themselves too. And so it's just, you never know who's watching you and what the impact you might be able to have by just being yourself in a public space.
Yeah, exactly.
So to relate that to body positivity as well.
Yes.
But, okay, so here's this scene also, another note I have about the song choice. This is Alice Wolf, and it's called Bros. And the lyrics, I just wrote down some of not in order or anything, but I have written down like pertinent lyrics. Shake your hair and have some fun. Forget our mothers and our past lovers. Forget everyone. I'm so lucky to have you as my best friend. No one knows me like you do. I'll keep you safe if you keep me strong. There's no one quite like you. And then I tell you all the time, I'm not mad. You tell me all the time, I got plans. That really made me think of Tara and Darcy in this scene. The rest of it is very like Nick and Charlie figuring out their public relationship. Oh my God, I just looked at Alyssa and she's dead.
I've been laying like that for like a good 2 minutes.
This is what happens when I split my screens. But yeah, just like, it's very, very heavy-handed, those lyrics, with everything that's going on. So I'm sorry I killed you in the process.
I'm sorry, this podcast has been canceled. Alyssa has died. Anyway.
Yes. So then we cut back to the boys' room. Charlie's putting on Nick's jumper, the green one. It's one of his favorites because this is also the one that he wore in Promise to the bonfire party. Is this a good time to talk about how in season 1 we had a lot of blues and yellows always together in some capacity, showing us their colors and how they're like getting to know each other and they're starting to come together. And now we're in season 2. They are together.
So much green.
And we're getting a ton of greens because now their lives are intertwined. And so the colors have mixed together to give us green instead of blue and yellow. The attention to detail is so good.
Using color theory to break Alyssa and Ashley into a million billion sobbing pieces.
Yes.
But yes, so Charlie tells Tal and Isaac to go ahead to the party. And Tal's just like, if you wanted some privacy with Nick, you could just say so. And it's like, just dawned on Charlie now that he could have done that at any point in time.
But also, 2 days ago, Tal would have absolutely scoffed and given him shit about it if he had asked for it. But now he has a girlfriend, so he's like, yeah, make out if you want to. I don't care.
Yeah. So Tal and Isaac leave. Charlie is wearing the green hoodie, and he's asking if it's okay to borrow that. And Nick says, as long as you don't steal it like the last 3 you borrowed, I actually quite like that one. And I'm like, Nick, you have a boyfriend now. Your hoodies are not your own.
Yeah, they're his.
They're Charlie's. Yeah. And it's like, I'm really hoping that we get the like birthday scene from the comics where Charlie wraps all of the hoodies and returns them. I love.
Yeah, I'm really hoping for that.
I love it. But then, Charlie says, I didn't steal them. I just forgot to give them back.
You forgot to give them back. I love his little teasing echo and he does.
It's okay, Charlie. It's been scientifically proven, in parentheses, by me, that boyfriend hoodies are the best kind of hoodies.
Yes. And then Charlie walks over to flatten his hair. Nick looks at Charlie and you can see the love like oozing out of him as he like stands up and walks over behind him and they smile at each other in the mirror. And then Nick reaches out and he pokes his dimples and makes him smile. And Charlie's like, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Just recharging." And then he gives him a little kiss on his neck.
I feel it on a spiritual level.
For sure.
Yeah. It's just so sweet and tender.
It really is.
And then my next note says Charlie suggests that they stay in their room for a bit of some smoochy time. And then I put in quotation marks, "We haven't kissed in like 2 days."
I like that Charlie's like, we could just stay here. And the change on Nick's face, like the mischief is instantly there. He's like, why is that?
Yep.
And they say they haven't kissed in 2 days. And I feel like that's a bit extreme because they were all over each other in the gay district. They definitely would have snuck some kisses in. Some pecks at least. If not full-on makeouts, but like some pecks. Yeah. So I'm just like, why? Why haven't y'all kissed in 2 days? You had plenty of opportunity if you ask me. So they kiss. And then Nick like pulls him into a deeper kiss just to immediately back off and be like, okay, let's go. And I love their back and forth of, I hate you. No, you like me. I really don't.
And it's just like, what you should be reading is, I love you. No, you love me. I really do.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
Okay, I have 2 notes before we move on from this scene.
Please do.
One of them might make you cry. We'll start with the other one first. The books. There are so many books on Isaac's bed.
Yes.
But then when they come back, there are no books on the bed. So does Isaac come back and organize his shit in the middle of the party?
Okay, let's be honest.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past him.
That is entire... I wouldn't put it past him to go, like, when he's upset and he leaves, to, like, go and, like, straighten up the books. Because the book that he has later at the party is in that pile.
So he does come back at some point then.
So he must have gone back at some point to get the book and probably picked up while he was there.
Yeah. I was just like, those books are not all there later. The other note is that on Nick's nightstand, there's a plush croissant.
It's precious. So that I don't cry, I am going to go back to the books for a second because one of the books that Isaac has in that pile is Loveless.
Oh, nice. Cute. Yeah. So then we cut to them outside, knocking on Tara and Darcy's room door. And Darcy's like, "Ugh, finally," and like drags them in. There's tape everywhere holding all of this shit up. I hope that the paint in this room is good. Otherwise, the school's going to have some extra charges on that.
The school is going to have some extra charges regardless because that is a mess the cleaning staff is going to have to deal with, and they are going to be charged for it.
Yeah. But it looks great.
It does.
It looks awesome.
Nick is like, "You did all this?"
Yeah.
And she says, "Yeah, everything has to be perfect."
Yeah. Also, I love that the music is like blasting and people are like loud and giggling. And then there's a knock at the door and it goes dead silent. I'm like, she knows what's happening behind that door.
She heard the music from down the hall.
So yes, there's a knock on the door and they open it and it is Tara with Elle and who? There's a third person. Probably Sahar.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But anyway, she's like super excited.
Yeah, when Tara gets there, everyone yells surprise. And then Darcy produces the bottle of vodka and holds it up.
One bottle for all them kids.
That bottle is a magic bottle.
Truly.
Like, it's a Mary Poppins bottle.
Yes. It would not be enough for Darcy to get as shit-faced as she does, unless she drinks most of it herself.
Especially considering how much she's pouring.
And how many kids are in there.
Yeah.
Like, granted, not all of them are drinking, I get that. But even if you had 4, if 4 people were drinking, that bottle would not last long.
She has to have gotten had other bottles and then just, like, had the one for show to do, like, look, I got alcohol.
Mm-hmm. So then we got what I have dubbed as the party montage. And we see this giant baguette, and this is the one that Bradley was talking about, the deleted scene of James and Sahar buying and talking about how they got ripped off. Then Darcy's pouring shots. Tao and Elle sneak off to the bathroom. Imogen encourages Darcy to take a shot from the cap, to which again I say, that is such a small shot. There's no way that they're getting as fucked up. But whatever. If they have more, maybe they have more. And then we cut to Tao and Elle in the bathroom. Elle takes off her glasses to make out, and I just have to say that is so fucking relatable.
Yeah.
They gotta go. And then directly paralleling, Tao walking in on Nick and Charlie discovering the consequences of their making out. Charlie walks in on Tao and Elle making out in the bathroom. And Tao's like, get out. And Charlie's like, I gotta pee. And he says, too bad. What do you mean too bad? Go somewhere else to make out. People at this party are gonna have to pee.
I know. My note, because the next shot is of Isaac trying to read, like surrounded by people making out. And I was like, Tao, Elle, there appears to be a makeout corner. Why can't you just come over here?
It's so
Leave
true.
the bathroom for all of these fucking drunk teenagers who need to pee.
I also love that he like chases Charlie out of the bathroom and shuts the door, but doesn't lock it. He still doesn't lock it. Like, just lock the door.
Yes.
But yeah, then we get Isaac reading, and he's noticing all the making out that's happening around him, and he lets out a big sigh and he leaves. And then we get this, I love this, Nick saying that he wants a shirt with Charlie's face on it, and that he would wear it as a pajama top. Because Charlie's like, where would you wear that? He's like, I would wear it as a pajama top. And Charlie says, okay, I'll get you one for your birthday. What color? And Nick says red. So I'm looking forward to that in season 3. I'm just going to manifest that they're going to give it to us. Give us the shirt.
It'll be mixed in with all of the hoodies.
Yes. And then fucking Ben.
He like slinks in.
He always does. That's how he fucking moves. Slinky, slimy bastard. And then we cut to Isaac outside in the hallway, and he like isn't even reading anymore. He just puts his book down. So that shows you how bad this is. And then James joins him. And they talk about James's friends teasing him about Charlie. And then this is such a good parallel to Nick and Charlie's first kiss. They're sitting together up against the wall after escaping from a party. He says, to be honest, I did have a crush on him last year, but not anymore. So like rather than saying, oh, so you don't have a crush on anyone at the moment, we get that line. And then instead of the like, would you kiss someone who wasn't a girl? Because we already know James's sexuality. He says, I do have a crush on someone else though. And we get the, oh, is it me? And also there's no music during this scene, just like there was no music in Kiss. The music for Nick and Charlie cut in like when they touched pinkies, like, would you kiss me? And then we get like the flowers and stuff and the like lovely music. And then we get zero music until the kissing starts. And they have 2 little kisses. On the second of their kisses, the like ominous music starts to kick in. And that's when you know like, ooh, this is not going to end well. I would love to hear from someone who had zero knowledge, like, because it was highly promoted in the season 2 promo that Isaac was going to give us an ace storyline. So I'm curious. I would love to hear from someone who did not have any of that knowledge, how they felt seeing this scene and how, because we kind of knew when it started that it wasn't going to end well. So I'd be curious to hear from someone who didn't know and like watched this scene fully blind, how they felt.
He's doing a lot. Like there's a lot of nerves and a lot of confusion and uncertainty. And it's all just like really subtle. And I feel like it's stuff that if you don't know what you're looking for, like you could easily misconstrue and like not really get what's going on. So
yeah, for sure. Also, like, kudos to both of them here for their acting, because Bradley breaks my fucking heart.
Yes.
In a different way than Toby is able to break my heart in this scene. Also, like, just to point out, James is brave as fuck. Like, you can tell that he is so nervous, but he pushes through in saying all of this to Isaac.
Yeah.
And when the music starts is when Isaac pulls back, and James asks if it was bad and says, I've just never kissed anyone before. He's like starting to panic. And Isaac is like, no, it wasn't that. And he tries to find the words that he's looking for, but then he just like is fully overwhelmed and just says sorry, and he leaves. And he leaves James just like sitting in the hall, and we get sad leaves. This is our first
sad leaves.
Sad leaves, and it hurts. It hurts me.
And then we have like Lucy Dacus comes in, and it's just like, oh great, I'm just gonna go over in a corner and cry.
I know. But honestly, you know what? Both of them are better than me because they both end up going back to that party. And there's no fucking way. I would be in my bed, depression, sobbing until we left the next morning. Goodbye, Paris. This fucking sucked. Like, on either, if I was either one of them. So.
I love the way that, like, there's no diegetic sound. Like, you can't hear anything that's actually happening in that room. It's just Isaac and his tears and the music and my tears.
I knew it. I knew when we got the promo of this. I knew it was going to break my heart, and it did. Yep. And everybody's, like, laughing and dancing, and he's just standing in the middle crying. It hurts so bad. So then we cut. Moving on from that traumatic scene.
This episode is whiplash.
It is like such a roller coaster.
Yeah.
So then we get Nick and Charlie on the balcony. This shot is so gorgeous. It's one of the best shots of the entire show, I think.
And all of the like party detritus with the confetti.
There's a Polaroid. There's streamers. The cities below them, like,
it's so good.
I'm considering this for another tattoo idea. I'm not gonna lie.
Why did I know you were gonna say that?
Just something I'm workshopping in my brain right now. Okay. We get the line, "We keep escaping parties to hang out together," and Charlie says, "Are we gonna do it every time?" And Nick says, "I hope so." And then I just key smashed a whole bunch because I was thinking about the party and Nick and Charlie, which I'm not ready for if it gets included.
Why are we thinking about Nick and Charlie? Shh.
And then I just wrote in all caps, "Holy shit, Nick is in love." Like the way that he looks at Charlie before he says, like, "No running away this time." I can't fucking breathe. Ah! It overwhelms me just to watch.
And then we get the like perfect comic relief because Darcy comes in, is like, sorry, like already drunk.
Crawling. She crawls onto the balcony.
Yeah. Already drunk, like you can tell in like her like speech and everything. Sorry to interrupt your very obvious flirting, but it's alcohol time. And then the other way that we know how drunk she is Charlie's cup is like literally half full. Like it's like 50% liquid, 50% air. And Darcy takes the vodka bottle and fills it to the fucking top.
I love their reactions too. Charlie says, "Oh wow, Darcy." And Nick is just like, "Oh wow, that's a lot."
Like, sorry, enjoy. And then crawls back out.
There's half a bottle still left.
It has to be a second or third bottle. Unless this is the strongest. Unless it's not actually vodka and it's like fucking Everclear or something.
Right. It's moonshine. The drink is disgusting as expected because Charlie's drink was already a suspiciously gross looking color of pink. And now it's mostly vodka.
Yeah. And like the vodka is the top half. And it's like,
yeah, stir it.
It's full to the brim. If they stir it, they're going to spill. But like,
just do this. Take a little sip and then use your finger. Anyway, but like, that's what my exact thought when Nick takes a sip and he's like, "Oh, that hits you immediately." And I was like, because it's all on top.
Yeah. I know. I'm like, everyone knows you pour in the alcohol and then you pour in the mixer so that it kind of mixes. But before they drink it, right? Charlie says that his parents never let him have alcohol. And I'm like, of course Jane doesn't let him have alcohol.
Right.
Like, of course.
Yeah.
And then Nick is like, well, your parents aren't here. Like, this is such high school bullshit. But yeah, so Charlie takes a sip, says it's disgusting, which, of course, that sip is almost exclusively vodka. And
Uh-huh.
Nick says he wants to try. He's like, it's probably not that bad. And his face scrunches. He's like, wow, that hits you immediately. And I'm like, yeah, yeah.
So we cut inside, and Harry's at the door with his friend. Harry's like, let me in. I invited you to my party. Tara's like, well, no homophobes at my party. I'm like, that's right. That is absolutely correct. You owe him nothing. And then Nick and Charlie come back inside right about the time that Harry's like,
I want to talk to Nick and Charlie.
yeah, first of all, it's not their birthday.
Yeah.
Talking to them will do nothing. The birthday girl, whose room this is, said no. So fuck off. But Harry apologizes half-heartedly and is like, all right, I did the thing. Is it cool now? Can we come in? And Charlie says no and shuts the door in his face.
So, not for nothing, it's not a bad apology up until the point when he says, so we cool, can we come in?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not great, but it's not the worst apology I've ever heard, right? And obviously, this is a scene from the comics. And this is the scene from the comics that I've always, like, felt kind of came out of nowhere and was a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I know that they need to wrap up Harry's story. And I'm like, this is a weird way to do it. And I know they gave us, like, a little bit more build up to it with Isaac's whole, like, lecture with Harry in the park. But it still just kind of comes out of nowhere. And then when you add the expansion of Ben's storyline,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it's just really weird. Especially because, like, we're slamming the door in Harry's face and saying he can't come in. But why is Ben here? And I'm like, okay, so we don't know for sure what Tara, Darcy, Isaac, Tao, and Elle know about Charlie and Ben at this point in time. Imogen has kind of put two and two together. Nick obviously knows everything. But, so Tara and Darcy might not know to throw Ben out.
Right. My point on that, though, is that they're friends with Imogen now.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is, but even without that, why is he here? And, like, he, like, snuck in. Like, he was being kind of, like, sleazy and smarmy as he was coming in. Like, he knew he wasn't welcome there. But, like, why hasn't anyone seen him and thrown his ass out yet?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I will give that to Harry. At least he knocked.
Yeah, he knocked. And he, like, attempted an apology. And again, the whole situation there feels really weird. But I'm like, if we're expanding Ben's storyline when he doesn't deserve it, we could at least, like, flesh this out and make it make more sense. That being said, I love the fact that Charlie says no and slams the door in Harry's face.
And I think it's so important because it's rarely shown that just because someone apologizes to you doesn't mean you have to forgive them and forget everything. Like, Harry's been absolutely awful to Charlie and to Nick, for that matter, and they don't know him shit just because he said sorry. And it's the problem with the apology for me is that it sounds like he's super rehearsed this, right?
Oh,
like
no, definitely.
He was, this was all just a ploy to get into the party. He, like, heard the music and was like, I want to be in there. Oh, well, I guess I'm going to have to apologize to Nick and Charlie for being an asshole in order to get into this party. I don't know.
Also, what about Tao? Tao also deserves an apology.
True that. Yeah. They throw, like, food at him and hit him with a rugby ball in the head. Like, yeah, he's horrible.
Yeah.
And probably, let's be honest, most of the people in that party need an apology from him, I'm sure.
Probably.
Also, I have another music note. Okay. It's Baby Queen.
Yes.
And it's Pretty Girl Lie. And I just want to point out how some of these lyrics super apply. So this song is about the societal pressures of looking a certain way, especially in the age of the internet, and how it affects us and the insecurities that come with that. There are lines in it about anorexia, about feeling broken, and putting on a fake smile to get through it. So on top of that being super fucking valid for all of these characters that are teens, that are worried about how they're being perceived, these are all specific things that we've seen Charlie struggling with and that are all coming to the surface now. But with Nick and his friends, he is gaining the confidence to fight back against some of these things. And we've seen his confidence growing all season. And this is just a very public display of that.
Mm-hmm.
And such a good use of this song.
Yes.
Yeah. And Nick is so proud.
Mm-hmm.
He's so proud of Charlie. And then I just wrote, fucking Ben. Of course he's lurking in the corner like a fucking freak.
Uh-huh.
And then the celebration begins. Tara's like, let's keep partying. Everybody dance. Tal should never stop dancing. He should dance in every episode.
Yes. I agree.
Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, he does dance in every episode for the rest of the season. Because we get him dancing in his room when he tells his mom in the next episode. And then prom, they have their epic dance. So, yes, keep that up. More Tal dancing in season 3.
Yeah. And they cut away from it far too soon for Truth or Dare.
Mm-hmm.
I made some notes of the Truth or Dare different things that happen. Tara has to chug something.
Mm-hmm. It looks thick and milky.
Yeah. I'm like, is it strawberry milk mixed with vodka?
Ew.
I don't know. No. It's gross.
I wish we had gotten the sock, like remove the sock with your teeth, but alas. Yeah. I also hate that we see Ben chanting chug, chug, chug. Like, get him off my screen. Get him off my screen. Stop showing him to me.
Tao is the next one, and he like has a truth. He shouts, "That's personal information. I'm not gonna say that." And I would just like to flag that statement in your brain, listeners, for in a few minutes.
Yep.
But beyond that, I'm choosing to believe that the question was, "What were you and Elle doing in the bathroom?"
Yeah.
Like, someone asks Isaac who his celebrity crush is, and he says he doesn't really have one. And this is where we see him reading Crush by Richard Seiken, which was one of the books in the pile when Nick and Charlie left, which means that Isaac must have gone back at some point.
Honestly, I'm surprised that he's in this circle playing. It seems to me like he would sit on the bed kind of like and observe this game rather than sitting in the circle and being involved. So that was a little strange to me, like, especially considering his mental state after everything has gone down tonight.
Yeah.
Just an interesting choice.
And then and then we get the scene that launched 1,000 fanfics and made Alyssa scream at the top of her lungs. Sahar says, "Imogen got a boyfriend last year and then stopped texting me. That's what happened." And Imogen said, no, you stopped texting me." And Darcy says, "What is the truth?" And I screamed a lot.
I want to know what the question was.
Yeah. I think you and I have discussed this. Because I feel like I remember telling you, like, this is a fan fiction in my mind that I will not write because I don't have the time. Where I was like, they must have been really good friends.
Close enough to text.
Close enough to be texting. And then Imogen got a boyfriend. And I think Sahar had caught feelings. In traditional bi-girl fashion. Imogen got a boyfriend and kind of started prioritizing that boyfriend and stopped texting Sahar. And Sahar was jealous, and so she didn't pursue the friendship any further. So, like, they both stopped texting each other.
Yeah, that tracks.
Totally not something that I'm hypothesizing on based on experience or anything.
Yeah, no, the way that I screamed on premiere night when I was like, what? What do you mean?
Yep. God, and then we get the greatest.
Yes.
The greatest moment.
Yeah?
Tao goes, "Charlie, come on. I know you loved me for years." And then he's crawling across the floor like a fucking animal. He purrs. And then he gives Charlie like a peck on the lips, and everyone loses their shit.
I love that right before he like cuts a glance at Nick first. Like, it's like, "I'm about to kiss your man."
Yeah.
And then Charlie immediately looks at Nick afterwards, and Nick is highly entertained. He thought this is the funniest thing.
And then Tao takes a bow.
Yeah.
Like, he crawls back to his seat, but like he's like in the middle of the circle and he like takes a bow.
And then it lands on Charlie.
And this person is the worst person.
Yep. Because this is the person that like has been hanging out with Harry and like has been egging him on and like was with one of the other rugby lads like laughing when Charlie fainted. Like, this person is an asshole.
Yeah.
And they dare Charlie to kiss James. And like, I feel so bad for James because on top of like dealing with this rumor that he's been roped into just because he is a gay person on this trip, like this hickey has nothing to do with him, but he's roped into it. And he also like finally just kissed his crush and it went horribly. And now he's like sitting across from him in this circle. Like, they're pretty straight across from each other. I don't know. It's just hard to watch.
It's really difficult. And it like even too, because like Imogen is sitting next to James and she kind of like gives him like a playful like bump on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Like, she's like trying to like egg him on a little bit, but it's just like it hurts. The whole thing. Yeah, my note is like, and the fun comes screeching to a halt.
Yeah. And James is like tearing up and like hugging his legs. And I just want to put him in my pocket and keep him safe and warm.
And Charlie calls the asshole out on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're only saying that because of the hickey rumor and it wasn't James.
Yeah.
And then they prove that they are the worst human being.
Yep.
By saying, well, then I dare you to kiss Ben.
Which stems from Imogen's public dumping of him and being like, why are you obsessed with Charlie? Like, this...
They're the worst person.
It's the worst. We all freeze. My stomach hurts. I can't breathe. This fucking sucks. I do like that someone literally says, ew.
Yeah.
They're like, ew.
And then, like, Imogen is like, come on, we literally just broke up.
And, like, she's like, shrinking into herself. I hate seeing shots of her during this because she's, like, slowly dying inside. But then I'm so proud of Charlie. He puts his foot down and he says, no way. But what I want to point out is that, like, Ben was waiting to see what Charlie said. Like, he didn't react at all. He just looked at Charlie.
And then
freaks out. And I'm like, he probably wouldn't have done it anyway. No. He's not there. So, like, he was waiting to see how Charlie reacted. But even if Charlie hadn't said anything, like, he would have eventually said exactly what he said. Yeah, he would have reacted the same way. He would have gotten there. But, like, I hate that he waited for Charlie to, like, make the decision. And he says, this isn't even funny. I barely know Charlie. This game is stupid. I'm tired anyway. And he gets up and everybody kind of snickers. They're like, he's always making a scene. And then this motherfucker shoves Nick on his way out. And
I didn't even catch that.
Oh, yeah. He, like, with his shin, like, shoves Nick over out of his way. And, you know, Nick, like, bumps into Charlie. So they both kind of, like, sway a little bit on his way out. And I'm like, hey, you little shit. Come back and shove them to my face. Like, I'm ready to fight you. I hate it because, you know, Nick is, like, hugging himself a little tighter and, like, trying to disappear a little bit. And then he gets fucking shoved. And I hate it. And yeah, Imogen, we see her little sad face. And, you know, this is like, oh my God, it's just so hard. She's so raw from the entire situation. Plus, we know she's been drinking. So, like, that makes her even more emotional. And I'm like, all right, girl, get in my pocket with James. I got cocoa and blankets in there, and I'm going to keep you all safe and warm. And then Charlie's like, I'm tired of this shit. Give me a truth. And then they just double down on being an asshole.
They're the worst person.
My God. Who gave you the hickey? Like, seriously, this is the third time in one single round that you have crossed boundaries. Get out of this party. Leave.
And Elle is like, can we just move on from this? And Tara says it's too personal. Someone might get outed. And then the asshole says, what's the point of truth or dare if we're allowed to keep secrets? First of all, fuck you.
Yeah.
Second of all, I refer you to Tal's refusal to answer a question for being too personal earlier in this montage.
Mm-hmm. May I also refer you back to when Tal was dared to kiss someone? It was left open-ended where he could choose. It wasn't kiss this specific person.
Yeah.
And I love that Elle was the first to speak up and say,
Yes.
Can we just leave this? She's always ready to speak up and fight back.
Mhm.
Such a queen.
Yes.
And then we see Nick get resolve face.
I love the way that it's done because there's like this anxious note in the music.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we're kind of like in Nick's point of view as he's like looking at all these people. And then the shot cuts to his face out of focus. And then the focus pulls onto him. Like he comes into focus and he goes, I know who it was. Charlie just, he's like, what?
Yeah.
We're doing this. It's happening.
And he gives him a smile.
Mm-hmm. And the music cue changes. And Nick like takes Charlie's hand with one hand. And then he also takes Charlie. Like he's like holding on to Charlie for dear life.
Yes. While still holding himself.
And I am going to explode.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, we're dating. And then I do explode.
In everyone's face.
Yeah.
Elle is so proud.
Mm-hmm.
And Tara and Darcy are so happy. And Isaac even like looks up. As soon as as Nick says, I know who it is, he looks up from his book and starts paying attention again. He gives a little smile. And then Tal's face, at first, I was like, he's not reacting. Like on my first watch, I was like, he didn't even react. And then as I watched it again, I was like, no, he did. He was bracing himself for everyone's reaction.
He was ready to fight.
Yeah. He was ready. He was braced for combat.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point that out because everyone else is like smiling and looking proud and he's like very stoic and like he's really just like bracing himself for what they're going to say and think. And we hear them say like, oh, I called it. Oh, we were just saying it the other day. And then the asshole's like, oh, I never would have guessed that Nick was gay. And then we get both of them at the same time saying he's bi, actually.
I love it.
So good. I also love that James is the one who asks, do you want to keep it a secret? Because he is the only other openly gay person at this party outside of Tara and Darcy, who like already know and like weren't going to tell anyway. So of course he understands the weight of this moment and the importance of the privacy of this situation. And so it's just lovely that he spoke up and asked for the room. Like, even if it was his instinct, it was an act of protection. And so I love that.
Yeah. And then, like, I love the way that Nick and Charlie look at each other. And then Nick says we're okay with people knowing.
Yeah. And Charlie lets out a little, like, exhale laugh of, like, that just fucking happened. And Nick looks like the weight of the world is off of his shoulders. Like, he looks so relieved. And I'm dead again. I just keep dying and coming back to life and dying and coming back to life this entire episode.
Yeah. And then we get Darcy is like, I'm sorry to ruin this very lovely moment, but I think I'm gonna be sick. And everyone freaks out. Like they all lose their minds.
Wait, I do love, though, that Nick thinks this is the funniest thing in the world. Like, when she says it, he instantly just starts cackling.
Yeah.
While everyone else is, like, jumping and running. And he's like, oh, my God, I'm, like, in the way of everyone getting to the door. But he's just, like, cracking up. I love it.
And then we have Tara is, like, running, like, dragging Darcy down the hallway, screaming for Mr. Farouk. And Nick and Charlie and Tao and Elle are like running after.
The worst decision. Never run when you're about to throw up unless it's to run to the toilet, the trash can, or the grass nearest to you.
There are so many things they could have done.
What the fuck? And why are they all going?
Yeah. At least like Sahar, Imogen, and Isaac, they like see them down the hallway and then like they hang back.
Right. I love also that Isaac's book is like he's still got it fully open.
Oh yeah.
So I'm imagining him like running behind everybody but still reading the whole time.
No, I imagine he's got it and he's like, oh, they're safe.
Yeah.
And they get to Farouk and Ajayi's room. And Farouk is like, I'm going to pretend I believe you have food poisoning.
Again, I think this is on the adults, because why the fuck did they sit her down on the bed? She should be in the bathroom and they know it.
Let her get sick and then have this conversation.
If someone came into my hotel room and said, I think I might throw up, the last place I would put them is on my bed.
Mm-hmm. Or if you're putting her on the bed, give her the trash can.
Right.
If you, like, want to have her at least sat down, give her the trash can.
I mean, I would have sat her down on the balcony with the trash can, but then she could have fresh air. She could throw up if she needed to. I just think this was a gigantic mistake on the adult's part.
Yes. So anyway, Ajayi is, like, trying to tell her to, like, take some deep breaths, and he's going to get her a bag. And it is too late for that, my guy.
Yep.
I love that it cuts to Farouk, and he's just like, why did I get into teaching? Like, kids ask, like, oh, how come you chose, like, your people ask, like, oh, how come you chose, like, middle and high school as opposed to elementary school? And I'm like, I do not want to deal with boogers, vomit, tying shoes, potty accidents. I don't want to deal with any of that shit, which, like, happens a lot more in, like, the lower grades. So I'm like, Farouk, listen, to be fair, you chose to teach, like, upper grade science.
Uh-huh.
There is a reasonable expectation that you're not going to have to deal with puke.
Yeah, this is a rare occurrence.
On the other hand, you did sign up for a multi-day trip to a different country.
Yeah. With older teens.
Yeah.
So.
And then we're back in the hallway, and, like, Nick and Charlie are walking back to their room together. And Nick gives Charlie, like, a big hug. They're, like, in just, like, the happy, like...
Yeah.
They don't have to hide anymore.
They're so in love.
So, like, Nick gives Charlie a big hug in the middle of the hallway. And it's so sweet.
It
Then
is.
he picks him up and, like, fireman carries him.
This is super, super impressive.
It is. This is a feat of acrobatics. This whole thing is, like, a feat of acrobatics for both of them.
That's true,
because, like, right, he fireman carries Charlie over his shoulder, and then he pretends to drop him, says he's not gonna drop him, almost drops him, and then Charlie has to do some fucking gymnastics to, like, transition from being upside down to, like, a piggyback, like, hold.
Yeah, very impressive.
Very impressive. That is some strength from both of them.
Yeah. And I love that Nick asks if it's comfy. He's like, is that comfy? You good? And I do know that Alice said the rest of this. I don't know. I'm assuming that was choreographed, but the dialogue at least was mostly improv.
Oh, nice.
For this scene.
It's really cute. I love it. But it's very impressive.
It is. Yeah.
And then once they're in the room, like, Charlie's like, you came out to a whole room full of people.
Yeah.
And Nick is like, do you think it's going to get passed around? Like, do you think everyone's going to know?
And Charlie gives him a kiss on the cheek. My heart.
It's like, yeah, probably.
I love that as soon as they enter the room, Charlie is instantly, like, rubbing on Nick's arms and, like, all up in his business because he knows that Nick's love language is physical touch.
Uh-huh.
And he just came out to a room of people, like you said. Like, that's a high anxiety situation. And so he's instantly touching him, giving him kisses, giving him that affection that he knows is going to be a comfort to him.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Nick says he's going to be okay.
Nick says will be okay.
Oh, I missed that. Will be okay.
I went back and listened because I was like, he says, I think I'm okay with that. And then he's like, I'm nervous, but we'll be okay. Because they're a unit now.
Yeah. And then, like, now it's like, okay, and so then Charlie, like, looks over at the empty beds, and apparently Tao and Isaac are staying in the girls' room tonight. Yeah. So he, like, starts, like, slowly making his way over to, like, Nick's bed. And he's like, I could sleep in here. And he, like, throws himself and, like, flops back onto the bed. I love it. And he's like, with you? Wink, wink. And then, like, Nick is, like, playing along. He's like, well, in that case, I think you're going to have to move over because that's my side of the bed. And, like, they're being, like, silly and flirty. And Nick, like, tackles him, and, like, they're, like, having a tickle fight that turns into a pillow fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I noted that if this was a CW show, like, if this weren't Heartstopper, if this were any other, like, teen drama, this would be their sex scene.
Yeah, 100%. Especially because Charlie, like, climbs on top of him and then somehow gets both pillows and then pins Nick down to the bed. Like,
yeah,
that that would have led to a lot more than it
Mhm.
does had this been any other show.
But it's not any other show. And so, like, I love we get to a point, Charlie notices that Nick doesn't feel fully comfortable, pulls back, and they have a fucking conversation. And,
Mm-hmm.
like, Charlie is, like, straddling Nick. Like, as soon as he realizes, like, what the conversation, he, like, moves. He gets off
Yeah.
of Nick, and, like, they have a conversation.
Yeah. So they're making out and Charlie says payback and starts to kiss Nick on the neck.
Uh-huh.
And that's when Nick, like, he panics. He's instantly, like, frozen. His whole body is stiff. And then he does, like, a little jump. And that's what Charlie is like, oh, something's off. And we love enthusiastic consent.
Yes.
And so, yeah, Nick is like, he's so far in his head at this point that it takes him a second to, like, get his words, and he's like, I'm just not sure I'm ready to do anything more than kissing. And Charlie, that's when Charlie's like, wait, what? No, wait, and like climbs off of his lap and is
He's
like,
no, we're not.
Yeah, we need to disband our middles because holy shit.
Yeah,
and they lay down beside each other, and I love that they like get comfortable for this conversation.
Yeah,
and Charlie's like fully facing Nick to give him his full attention, but Nick is still like terrified, and so he's on his back, like with his arms like on his stomach.
Yeah, and I love how like they're like, oh, I didn't think we were gonna do that yet. Like they're like like, tiptoeing around it because like they're so very clearly not there yet.
Yeah, and Nick is like, I do want to do that. Yeah. And Charlie's like, yeah, me too. Eventually. Yeah, and Nick is like, yeah, me too. And I love Charlie making the point of being like, but only if you want to do it, then we will. But if not, then we won't. Like it's going to be both of us have to be ready for this to happen. And it's like, I'm not going to hold it against you if you need longer than me. Like, I love that conversation because it's so important.
I'm so excited to see how they develop their like sexual relationship, like through because the way it's done in the comics is so good and so real.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing. And the point that, like, when I started making this note, I never actually in my note got there. But, like, the point that I was trying to make in my notes was that, like, if this were a CW, because I was like, if this were a CW show, just because on a lot of, like, teen dramas, they're all always, like, already ready to have sex and do all of the things. But that's not what teen relationships are like. That's not what adult relationships are like.
There are so many factors that go into making the decision to have sex with someone that I'm glad that there's finally a show out there that is showing these like step-by-step developments of becoming more comfortable with a person and being ready for it. So.
Yeah, and like they do like even as their like relationship develops further in the comics, like it's incremental. Like they do this one thing and then another thing, and like it's all it's so good, and it's just like I love how real it is because that's one of the things that is so important about this show is that not only is it all of this positive representation, but it's just like real, and it's what real life is like, and that is important because I feel like a lot of the narratives that a lot of teen shows give is like where kids get the pressure of like everyone's doing it, so you need to be, when it's like, no, slow the fuck down.
Yeah.
Don't do things you're not ready for.
It's not a universal experience to have sex at a teenage year. So like,
and not for nothing, Nick is only just really coming to terms with his bisexuality. So gay sex is not something that he's thought about as a possibility until very recently.
Right.
Like he needs to get his head around what all is going on before he can like give informed consent to do anything more than what they're doing right now. Like, honestly, I also feel like a lot of the perception of adults about like horny teenagers comes more from media than from like actual 100%. Lived experience.
Yep. So then we get Charlie's like, oh my God, that sounded so cheesy. I'm so embarrassed. Why are we like this?
Oh, I love that he's like, that sounded so cheesy. And then he like face flops into the pillow and he's like, I'm so embarrassing. And like, he's like, why are we like this?
And Nick says, I have no idea.
And then he rolls over and he's like, kissing's still okay though. And it's
Yeah.
like, you guys, like, they're just like getting back on, like, they're like making sure they're on the same page.
Yeah.
It's so sweet. And
then
so
we get
tender.
sweet, tender kisses.
Mm.
I also have a note here that now we have used both cringe and cheesy in the dialogue this season. And those are the two main words that I get thrown around on Heartstopper slander posts on the internet. So I'm wondering if this was intentional because those are the two like terms I see all the time, or if like it was unintentional, but I want to believe that it is, because if you don't love Heartstopper, then you're wrong, and we will keep our cheesy cringe show as cheesy and cringy as we want it and to ourselves.
Yeah. Uh-huh. It's so cute. I love them.
It is very cute. So then we get the sleep montage. We get Tao pretending to be Elle. I love this. She's like tickling him. He's like, don't tickle me. And he reaches over and he puts on her glasses. And he says, hello, my name's Elle. I can draw art. Look at my amazing art. Am I amazing? I love it.
That's all well and good. But I can't hear any of that over the sound of my screaming! Because what is happening in the other bed? Who's there?
Imogen and Sahar.
And where is Imogen's arm?
I just have Sahar and Imogen cuddled up as my big bullet point, and then underneath it in smaller bullet points, I have Sahar and Imogen cuddled up, Sahar and Imogen cuddled up, Sahar and Imogen cuddled up over and over and over and over again. And then just a line of exclamation marks.
My notes, right? So I have Elle and Tao sharing a bed, and then in all caps, Imogen and Sahar sharing a bed, question mark, exclamation point. And Imogen's arm is very conspicuously reaching across and over Sahar. And I am screaming so loudly. Tao and Elle are flirting, but I can't hear it over the sound of my Sahar Imogen screaming. And then the shot cuts to focus on the two of them. And I know that the point is to change the focus so we can see Isaac out on the balcony, but it's happening and I am dead. Code blue, call the morgue.
Yes. And then we do get Isaac giving us the iconic Alid on the balcony shot, listening to his headphones. And my poor baby. It might be a little bit awkward, but climb on in my pocket with James and Imogen. We just ordered pizza.
Damn it, I want pizza.
This hurts. The next bit hurts. So then we get Tara and Darcy in the bathroom. Also, side note, how much money did she spend on these decorations? Because there are twinkle lights everywhere. There were neon, like, cloud signs out in the room. Like, how much money did she spend on this? Did she pack some of these decorations? Oh my God, look.
This is in the bathroom.
Yeah.
This is the glowing orb that I bought for my Willow costume. It's
nice.
Dead right now, but like when it's orange, it just kind of in the dark, it just looks like a glowing orb.
Yeah.
But it is like a galaxy thing, and it's in the bathroom. This cost $40.
I mean, and neon signs, even cheap ones, are not that cheap. So like, there was a lot of decor in there that I'm like, how did she have any money left over for a suit?
Yeah.
But she says, sorry for ruining your birthday. Tara says, it's not ruined. She says she just wanted it to be perfect. And then she says she loves her. And Tara's like non-reactive. She just looks at her.
Yeah.
And Darcy's like, I know that it sounds like I don't mean it because I'm drunk, but I do. I love you. I love you so much. And they kiss. And I think that Kizzy should get an award for their acting here because it's so good. Like, especially at the end after they kiss and they joke about it being gross, Darcy like leans onto Tara and Tara holds her while she sobs. And that sob gets me every time. It's so good. It's so good. We also skipped over that she calls her like she's a princess in the beginning, which is a line that a lot of people love to talk about.
Why?
And use the word cringe and cheesy.
Fuck them.
I know. I agree, but anyway.
Some people just hate joy.
Yeah, truly.
I do have some notes because, right, so Tara kisses Darcy and then Darcy's like, that's so gross. I was just sick. And Tara says, I don't care. And this is where a bit of my emetophobia comes back into play. Because I'm like, you should probably at least a little bit care. And then it was like, also at first I was upset because I thought that she meant because she got sick in Farouk and Ajayi's room. And I'm like, you definitely should have brushed your teeth by now. I was like, but then I realized that they're in the bathroom and
floor.
She's probably been sick on and off, which is why they're on the bathroom floor. And I'm like, don't you at least rinse your mouth afterwards? Like, but I hate that feel. Like, if there's enough of an interlude in between where I'm able to have a conversation, I'm getting up and at least rinsing out my mouth. I hate that feeling. Fair. So, like, yeah. But I was just like, you didn't do something? Like, but then Tara, like, pulls her in close and, like, holds her. And then I'm like, I don't really care. It's not that big a deal.
Then we cut to the teachers, and they are finally drinking that wine. They're like, ugh.
My note says, so much for we probably shouldn't drink alcohol, Nathan.
Well, to be fair, it is the last night, and they have had their emergency for the night. So if they're going to drink, now is the time.
Yes. Ajayi asks if Farouk is going to report Darcy, and he says she can't get in trouble for having food poisoning, proving that Farouk does, in fact, have a soft spot for the kiddos, which takes Ajayi by surprise, and I think makes him fall for Farouk just a little bit more.
I think it also, like, this is twice that it's happened that Ajayi's been like, oh, come on. And so I feel like he's rubbing off on him a little bit too. Like, yes, he has a soft spot for the kids, but also just like being around Nathan is making him like a little more easygoing.
So but it does take him by Ajayi by surprise because he was like, oh, and like he smiled.
He's like, oh, really?
Yeah, it's so sweet. And then Ajayi says he should go down to reception to get fresh sheets. And I need to know what they did with the old ones, because there are still sheets on that bed.
There's like the comforter, and then bundled on the edge is like a sheet. So I think they just wrapped it up in itself, and it's sitting there. But
it's still in there.
Yeah, because I was like, you guys, and then they don't do anything because they like kiss and stuff. And I'm like, are y'all gonna fuck with that? The throw up smell in the room?
I mean, at least the window is open.
It's not enough.
But like, yeah, I'm like, at least get that out the room.
Yeah.
Like,
agreed.
Even if you just like set it like outside, like you need to do something. But I don't want to spend too much time thinking about that because the rest of the scene is very adorable. Right? Farouk is like, well, you could share my bed. And then he immediately like panics.
Aborts mission. Some Charlie Spring behavior.
Like, he looks so sad. I'm like, oh, baby.
Yeah. And it's like, have you looked at him and the way he looks at you, sir?
But yeah, and so like Ajayi grabs his wrist and calls him Yusuf, which I think is the first time that we hear them. No, they call each other by their first names at the Paris meeting.
Oh, yes.
But like, it's just so soft and tender and like feels so intimate.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't think it's a stupid idea.
Code blue.
And they finally close that gap.
Yes.
And Ajayi, they kissed. And I love that, like, even though it's the adults, like, it's still this, like, tender thing. Like, they could have gone hot and heavy here.
Yeah.
And they chose not to. And they chose to, like, have the, like, camera pull out of the room. Like, we're going to give you some privacy.
Because the focus is not on the sex. It's on the relationship building. It's on the fact that they are at this point, finally. It's not about the act of sex itself.
Yes. It's so good.
Yes. So good. And then we come back to Nick and Charlie.
It's just so sweet.
Is so adorable. My note says, I'm down again. I'm dead.
They're saying they want to stay up all night. And so, like, they're laughing and talking and snuggling. And then later, like, they've changed positions and now Nick is holding Charlie instead of Charlie holding Nick. And they're still talking.
Yeah.
And then it cuts again and, like, they're asleep and Nick is the big spoon and he's got his arm, like, fully around Charlie. And then later, now Charlie's the big spoon. And then again, like, and, like, it's just so sweet.
Yeah. I saw on Twitter where someone had taken this scene and cut the music out where you could hear what they were saying to each other. And a lot of it is still just like giggles and like inaudible, but we do get Nick giving us another "Why are we like this?" And you can like barely hear it. And Charlie just like giggles at him about it. And then also, okay, I know I keep talking about music and we're going to do a whole music episode. So I'm going to hold back a little bit, but the song that's playing right now is called Deep End by Holly Humberstone.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, it's about someone seeing you and seeing what you're struggling with in your head and like being there to help you escape from that and being someone that you can just be yourself with as you are. And it's so pertinent to literally every single one of the characters that we see in this sleep montage. The teachers, Nick and Charlie, Sahar and Imogen, Isaac, all of them.
It's so good.
It's so good.
So good. Yeah. I didn't like write down, but there were a few times in the lyrics. I was like, I'll be your medicine if you let me.
Yeah. Throw me in the deep end. I'm ready now to swim. That is like so pertinent to the coming out.
Mm-hmm. The chorus, the I'll be your medicine if you let me, give you a reason to get out of bed.
I'm trying to hold off the lightning and help you escape from your head.
It's perfect for every single one of those characters.
Yes, it's so good. Just props to the fucking music people.
Mm-hmm. It's also just like a beautiful song.
Yeah.
Like, out of context.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then it cuts and they're like taking the bus ride home. And we start with Elle and Tao. And Elle asks, like, what was his favorite moment in Paris? And Tao says the Louvre. And I was like, motherfucker, if you had said anything else, you would no longer be in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. You can't see it, and it's not in the subtitles either, but when it pans back out and you can like see them continuing that conversation, it looks like he also says, the party was pretty good too. And I'm like, okay, so the two places you got the most kisses. Very well answered, sir. Also, we see Isaac is asleep on Sahar.
Aww.
In the background. He's asleep on her shoulder.
I missed that. Darcy is very hungover.
So hungover.
She's like not great.
And Tara is anxious as fuck.
Yeah.
The teachers are stealing glances. Very Akko Taco between these two right now.
Yeah. They're like, it's very much though of like we can't let the kids know.
Uh-huh. Like we need to talk about it, but we can't talk about it here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they are though, like they like keep like stealing glances at each other. It's just really, it's like sweet and also hurts.
Yeah.
And then we've got Charlie scrolling through Instagram. And like Darcy has posted this like group picture and then like swipes it over and it's like a zoom in on Farouk's face in the picture.
Mm-hmm. And the caption says, "At least Mr. Farouk had fun."
Yeah.
And he's like looking miserable in the photos. He's looking very much, why did I go into teaching in this photo?
Everyone else in that picture is having a blast and he's like, why am I here?
Yeah.
And then we have Charlie's on his right. Nick is asleep on his shoulder this whole time.
By the way, yeah.
So yeah, then he scrolls down and there's the picture of him and Nick at the Arc de Triomphe with the heart emoji. And there's a comment that says, "Is it true you guys are dating?"
He looks worriedly at Nick. And then we cut to black, setting us up perfectly for the next episode, which is one of my favorites. I really like the next episode a lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had trouble with quotes for this one. I
did too. I managed to pick one and an honorable mention.
Let's do yours first.
So the one I decided on was the simultaneous "I'm bi actually" and "he's bi actually" from Nick and Charlie. Just I thought it was really cute. But honorable mention to Farouk saying, "Why did I get into teaching?" Because a kid throwing up in front of me would 100% make me ask the exact, like, it's just like, yep, that would also be a question in that moment.
Yeah. So my two honorable mentions, I'll start there because I feel like they're both classics. Mm-hmm. The recharging line and the just Nick's coming out in general. Yeah. That scene. Then my second runner-up would be Tao pretending to be Ella at the end. I love that. But I gave it to Charlie's boundary setting no's in this episode. So we get the no to Harry and the no way about kissing Ben.
Awesome.
Just because I'm so proud of him for
Yeah.
putting his foot down.
Those are all good choices.
Where'd you fall on the scale?
5. I cannot in good conscience write the words call the morgue in my notes and not say I'm a 5 out of 5.
Yeah. I gave it a 900 million out of 5.
Yeah, that's true. I had broken the scale significantly in previous episodes, though. So I was like, all right, this one's a lot, but let me recalibrate.
Yeah, I had been sticking to the like I've been pretty calm in the episodes leading up to this one because I knew that this one was going to be insane for me. So, yeah, 900 million out of 5.
It's also been a minute since we've talked about a main episode, and so I was like, let me just recalibrate.
Yeah.
And
get a reset.
Yeah. All right. Well, that just about wraps us up for this episode. Right now, we're not bi-weekly, but this is still a podcast by two bisexuals, and we will be back as soon as we can to talk season 2, episode 7, Sorry.
If you want to follow us online, we are at Why Are We Cast on all platforms.
And until next time, bye.
Bye.